Each week, nearly a dozen movies are released theatrically. 40 films a month, more than 400 a year. That's a plethora of cinema. Too much cinema. You'd have to be an addict to see all that. But don't fret. We've got you covered. This is CinemAddicts.
Hey everyone, what's up? It's a new week of CinemAddicts. This is CinemAddicts episode 328. We're covering movies that are coming out for the week of Friday, January 23rd, 2026. The movies that are being reviewed this week for this week of January 23rd, 2026 include H is for Hawk, In Cold Light, Dooba Dooba, and Eric's favorite movie of 2026, and that will be Atropia. I'm so excited, Eric Holmes, for Atropia. This is our job. We try to find hidden gems, like Bruce Purkey says, and this is what we do, right? And are you excited to talk about Atropia in a couple moments, maybe, possibly? And I apologize for having you watch that. No comment. There's Eric Holmes is usually a garrulous and gregarious type of person, and he's not. No comment yet until you get to the review. No comment on Atropia.
As mentioned a couple weeks ago, I'm still watching Avatar 3. It hasn't finished yet.
Yes.
Atropia felt longer.
We will. Okay. No one has ever said that to me, family show, ever in my life. And that's why I'm still single, family show. I will say this. This is the week that Greg Srisavasdi throws someone under the bus. And Bruce Purkey's already in the attic. He's been thrown under the bus for the last year and a half, being in the attic, or at least 2 years. Bruce Purkey gave up on Atropia 20 minutes in. And he left Eric Holmes to bite that bullet. And I forced Eric Holmes to watch Atropia because that's the only way we're going to cover 4 movies. And I want to apologize on behalf of myself and the selfish Bruce Purkey who bailed 20 minutes into Atropia. And I thank you, Eric Holmes, for being a trooper. You're a team player.
I've kidnapped Bruce and locked him in the attic and have been feeding him non-people food for a better part of a couple of years now. So
come on. Don't say you deserve it. You're taking accountability.
I am a kidnapper. And
you're taking the high road.
I guess
you're taking the
I'm just saying people get what they deserve sometimes, and so
That's
I'll
fair.
take the hit.
That's fair. So first of all, that's not a good or a look at Atropia. So that might be a movie. I was joking. It might not be a movie that is a hidden gem, which is what we like to cover for CinemAddicts. But Eric, looking at some of these 4 movies as a teaser, is there a hidden gem this week that you're excited to talk about?
There's 2 of them, and one of them, and a third one that technically was a hidden gem. I think we all missed last year. So
my fault. Yes.
That'll be. I mean, it's just as much my fault as anyone else because I missed it too. But yeah, I caught up with that. We'll talk about it in the recommends. But so I don't want to just crap on Atropia. We haven't even started talking about it.
Okay, yet. There might be some good moments with Atropia. We don't know, yeah. And that is my fault too because I still have not seen Atropia. I've been watching different movies this week that I actually haven't told you, Eric Holmes. There's a movie called House Party. Ever heard of this movie called House Party back in, I think,
with
1990? Yeah, ever heard of it? Released in 1990?
Oh, no.
Never heard of it. I didn't tell you and Bruce this. This week, I interviewed Kid and Play for House Party. Nice. 35th year anniversary over on Criterion. Can you believe House Party, which I'm sure you haven't seen since the 90s, Eric Holmes? It's getting a 35th anniversary release, Criterion Blu-ray, 4K UHD, and I got the chance to interview Kid and Play. What do you think of that?
That's pretty cool. The kid, Chris Reed?
Yes, Christopher Reed, yes.
He came, he was here, this was a couple of years ago, when my brother Steve was working at Triple Nickel, and he just wandered in, was hanging out, and I wasn't there for him, but my brother Steve told me about it later, and it was like, yeah, he was just cool as hell, drinking, joking around. Like, apparently he's a cool guy, and if he's an a-hole, that's not what I heard from everyone that met him that day. He seemed pretty jovial and cool to hang out with. So hopefully the interview went well. I'm looking forward to listening to that.
Thank you, Eric. And to echo your sentiment via Stephen regarding Christopher Reed, right? He was actually pretty funny because when they actually did the video and because this horrible video, DJ Osmo Pocket 3, which I do not endorse it always craps out on me during these middle of these interviews. As Eric knows, I do not like
endorse it, but you keep bringing it up. So
I am gonna bring it.
That's some advertising of a sort, I think.
Do not get this gimbal, folks. Do not get the gimbal. But this thing, when it actually showed up for my Kid and Play interview, it did not have a picture of my face. It had a picture of the turnaround of that because it was turned the other way, and it had a picture of my lamp. And Christopher Reed would just cracked. He said, "Well, I guess we're gonna be interviewed by a lamp." And he said that in a very kind, jovial way, like you said, Eric. So Christopher Reed also has a very good sense of humor. So ain't gonna hurt nobody, right? Love that song.
Apparently he's good at talking crap, but like in a busting balls kind of way, not screw that a-hole kind of way.
Not a mean way. So speaking of mean, Eric's not going to be mean with Atropia. I was being mean. I was trying to be sarcastic and facetious, and that's my apologies. And hopefully some of these movies will be good for you over at CinemAddicts. I think our weekly mission, Eric Holmes, can you elaborate what our mission is? What do you think? I always say what our mission is. What do you think our mission is on a weekly basis?
To bring arm wrestling and bowling to the world.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's a good priority. Good arm wrestling.
I'm sure there's something else, but I can't think of what it would be.
Well, I was thinking maybe there's a lot of movies that are coming out via Netflix, Prime Video, Hulu, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus. Much respect to those people. Those are the big.
Unfortunately, we don't
boys
cover
and girls.
movies on this podcast. We only cover bowling and arm wrestling.
Bowling and arm wrestling. That's why every single episode we review the movie over the top. But no, what we try to do is, out of all those big boys and girls out there in the streaming world, in the theatrical world, there's some movies that are might be available on digital. They're not playing on every single theater around your neighborhood. Maybe they're really hidden away. And hopefully there's some hidden away movies this week. And every week that me, Eric, and Bruce get to cover, some of them actually are hidden gems. And we want to unearth them. I think Eric and I will be talking about one of a really awesome and great.
Come out eventually.
Some of them come out eventually. This is why, guys.
How depressing. How many movies have we seen that was like, that's really good, and then you should see it, and then it turns out like they just never get they never get a release, or they get a release like a year or two later, and it's, this finally came out. It was like, didn't that come out last year or the year before or whatever? I mean, it's cool when they finally do, but it's like a Hippo, for example. Hippo is really good. I think you can it's finally available streaming, but man, that from the time we reviewed it to the time normal people could access it, that was way too long, and probably not their fault. They probably wanted it out way sooner, but that's just how it works sometimes with these indie movies. And it's unfortunate.
But if you listen to me, Eric and Bruce, you don't have to listen to our star ratings, as Eric says, our star ratings can be bogus at times. Or just listen to some of the movies that are coming out in a given week, and you can just be like us as well. You will be able to live in the cinematic twilight zone, where you will see movie A, like me, Eric, and Bruce, on a given week, and then you won't have anyone to talk about it for another year and a half. But at least you'll have the skinny on these type of movies. I'm thinking of Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom. We reviewed that, say,
by
on
the way,
date, and 6 months later, it's a hit. Yes, Pem Zam.
Speaking of Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom, I don't believe Pem Zam's been in anything since then.
Horrible.
And that's a travesty.
That is a travesty. She's amazing.
I don't think she was an actor. I think she was just someone from the area they put in the movie. And she was like, this will be cool, I guess. And then just didn't care after that. But man, oh man, I'd love to see Pem Zam in something else again.
And look at how much I think we started it was with Find Your Film when we started this type of aesthetic, this hidden gem aesthetic. We started with one of the movies that we love, Death of Dick Long. And then eventually, I mean, it's still a cult film, but
probably even more so after Everything Everywhere All at Once on the Academy Award.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And 2-year delay, Eric. 2-year delay when we first come out. Anyways, I'm not patting us on the back. I'm patting you guys on the back, fellow CinemAddicts listeners, because we're trying to cover movies, and hopefully you guys, if you listen to this episode or these episodes on a weekly basis, you will get an early jump on a lot of movies that aren't being covered on by the bigger movie podcasts or other movie podcasts or other movie critics. And let's start with that first movie that I did not watch. Eric did watch. Bruce gave up on it. He bailed on it 20 minutes ago. He tried 20 minutes and then he left. There's a movie called Atropia. and I will read it.
You're gonna have all that preamble about hidden gems, and we're starting on Atropia.
Do you want me to take a left turn? Because I will take a left turn and
In
go.
Cold Light. Let's not bury the lead.
I'm gonna bury. I refuse to do that because that's gonna be our sexy. I want to bury the lead. I want to bury the lead.
Okay.
LEADE, because you and I are together on that one. But I will say this: there's gonna be 2 movies that Eric and I are going to review. Eric's gonna do one. I'm gonna do one. I'm gonna do one right now.
Okay.
I'm gonna make that left turn.
You know what? Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. We'll start with the Atropia. Sorry, I'm going all over the place.
No. I got you. I got you on this. I understand this.
All right.
All that preamble has to lead somewhere, and it's going to lead to something good. Who knows? Maybe Atropia is good. And I apologize to the filmmakers and the cast and crew for mentioning Atropia so much. But I will mention another movie, a movie that I reviewed earlier this week, or I saw that earlier this week. It's called H is for Hawk. I told Eric and Bruce not to watch this movie because they had other things to do, but I do feel bad because I wish they both saw this movie. H is for Hawk. I'm going to actually give a plot synopsis, and I'm going to ask Eric what he would think of the movie. It's based on a true story of this woman named Helen McDonald. In the movie, she's played by Claire Foy. And Helen has grown up being a falconer. She and her father love birds. Eric, do you know what a falconer is? Have you had any idea what falconer is?
Just a falcon trainer. They were like the big thing on their arm. And like...
Right, exactly, Eric. And you know what falconers do? And I'm not kidding right now because I've been...
Actually, don't they use them for hunting? Or
That's right.
Okay.
They use them for hunting. And it's a very intricate, almost intimate relationship. Because I don't know if all hawk species are non-affectionate, but the hawk species, well, I'm not going to mention any kind of spoilers for H's for Hawk, but it's a very interesting relationship between the falconer and the hawk, or maybe the falconer and the falcon or the kestrel. So there's different birds of prey with their respective guardian or masters on the arm. But like you said, Eric, they usually go on hunts together. And it's a very interesting relationship. A big part of that element is what is available for H's for Hawk. Again, based on a true story. Helen, played by Claire Foy, she loses her father. She's very close to her dad. Her dad is played by Brendan Gleeson. With his passing, Helen, who was having a great life as a teacher at a local university, and she was very jovial and everything like that, the light understandably goes out of her eyes because of grief. We all know that when we lose someone special, Eric, very dearly, I know dearly as well, with my loss of my father, you with your brother, and her, Helen, with her dad. What happens with grief? You don't want to go out of the house. You don't want to social. Well, I think Eric's a different person because he's a social person. I'm a hermit. When my father died, I buried, I think he's been passed for about at least 8 years now. I'll hold myself in our family home for years. And the only humans I see on a weekly basis, I don't even see Bruce Purkey barely. He's up in the attic, but I see Eric Holmes. That's it. And then that's my life. And I've buried my grief.
And then when I come into town, I guess I got to go outside.
No, I want to see you, Eric Holmes. It's our buddy Pete Abeyta I don't want to see. But I'm pumped. No, I love you, Pete. I love you, Pete. I love you're listening to this. I love Pete Abeyta, the chairman of the board of middle class film class. But anyways, H's for Hawk is about grief. It's a universal situation that most of us know in this world. And so it's a universal story. But what makes this story specific is the falconer element. Helen, to deal with her grief, one way she deals with it is by not dealing with it, by ignoring it, by burying it, like me, under this hole. How does she bury it? She becomes the falconer to a goshawk. A goshawk is a type of hawk which is supposedly the most unmanageable hawk to train. So she's climbing up a mountain in attempting to train this goshawk. And the rest of the movie deals with the trials and tribulations that she has in training this goshawk and becoming that falconer, and you see their relationship. But the problem is, the closer she gets to the hawk, the farther she gets from her day-to-day job as that teacher, possibly professor at the university. She ignores her family, her brother and her mother, who are also tremendously grieving over the loss of the patriarch of the family. She's not dealing with her best friend, who she usually goes out with to the pub on several times a week. She's ignoring everybody in life. The only thing that is her main focus is a goshawk. And that is not cool, right? That is not very cool for her. it's not going to be good for her personal welfare. So, Eric, I gave you a picture of H is for Hawk. Where do you think the rest of the movie is going to go? Where, if you were listening to what I was just saying about, you think it's going to be a feel-good movie, or do you think it's predictable?
Samuel L. Jackson eventually recruits her to the Avengers, and then Thanos comes out, and she uses her special Hawk abilities to attack the bad guys.
Well, that is definitely a theory. Another theory is for H is for Hawk, you might see a lot more scenes of the Hawk, and you do get to see a lot of scenes, but maybe it might be turned into about a woman who learns how to love people again and be emotionally involved in people's lives and all that stuff. That would be the predictable way of H is for Hawk to go. But I really do appreciate Helen MacDonald, who actually wrote her experiences of grief and this Hawk in that book. The book was called H is for Hawk, was a bestseller, critically acclaimed. It's a very truthful look at grief, directed by Philippa Lothorpe. I warn people because it's 115 minutes, and a lot of this movie is understandably somber and sobering. And do you want to see 20 minutes of someone in their house shielding themselves away from the world? Probably the answer is no, right? That isolationist thing. Maybe if you like Castaway and a volleyball, you might like parts of H is for Hawk. I will say this, though. Because of the Falconer element, the filmmaker, again, Philippa Lothorpe, she constructs this movie in a very visually beautiful and immersive way. So even the times of it being very downbeat, it got me locked in visually and it got me locked into the story. I love this movie a lot. I really love its honest take on grief and how one deals with the world and how one shields themselves away from the world. And it's a very, in my opinion, a truthful look. And it doesn't feel like a movie. It feels more like reality. And it's a great performance by Claire Foy from The Crown. Her scenes with the Hawk as a falconer, she looks absolutely believable. I really love this movie. H is for Hawk. It comes out Friday, January 23rd in theaters via Roadside Attractions. Yes, Eric Holmes.
So they also forgot the co-writer, Emma Donahue.
Yeah,
who wrote the book and the screenplay Room.
Oh, very, very good. Thank you, Eric.
All the stuff I was looking at that, and all the stuff you're describing was like, in a vacuum, you'd be like, maybe not. And then I'd think of it in the context of Room. I'm like, I do want to see that.
That's an extra layer of research you did that I did not. So you're making me look stupid because I am stupid, and I don't want you to remind everyone that's how I look.
You were waiting for me to say it because you wanted me to be involved in the conversation. Of course.
Yes, folks. That's exactly what
you're not stupid. This was Greg wanted us to catch him. Is what they want.
Running it out. Thank you. But again, thank you for that extra layering on this review. Eric Holmes is always appreciated for the smarter person to actually give some extra meat to H is for Hawk. Highly recommended for me. Again, my warning is it might be a little bit too sober for you or sobering and somber, but it was right up my alley. 115 minutes, comes out Friday, January 23rd. My rating for H is for Hawk, an easy 4.5 stars. Love this movie. Yes. Okay, so I'm glad we took that left turn because that goes right in line with our CinemAddicts MO. Now, we also try to catch movies that are hidden, but they might not be a hidden gem. These might be indie films that might not be playing at your local theater that much, but should you be going out of your way for it? Well, there's this movie called Atropia, and I'm going to read this plot summary, and then after that, I'm going to let Eric Holmes take the reins for this movie review. Quote, "Welcome to Atropia, a fake nation created by the U.S. military to train soldiers before their deployment. These simulated towns and environments built by Hollywood set designers are brought to life by role players hired to create a sense of, quote, authenticity." And I always forget how to pronounce her name, but Alia Shakwat, she plays an aspiring actress in a military role-playing facility, and she falls in love with a soldier, played by Callum Turner, cast as an insurgent. Their unsimulated emotions threaten to derail the performance. That is one of the elements of Atropia. I guess it bills itself as a comedy. It's 97 minutes. Also stars Jane Levy. Ooh, I better see this movie. She was in one of my favorites from last year. Or is it Levy or Levy? Maybe Jane Levy. She was in this movie called, I think, what was it called? A Different Prayer? Anyways, I'm going off at another left turn. But Chloe Sevigny and Lola Kirk is also in this. Very good ensemble, Eric. And it's directed by Haley Benton Gates, running at 97 minutes. I like this ensemble. I might actually, no matter what Eric Holmes is saying within the next 5 to 10 minutes, I might actually take the bullet as well and give Atropia a shot. Should I, Eric Holmes?
If you want to. I mean, I can't tell who's going to what and who's not going to what.
That's fair.
But I would say, so Bruce, just a little bit of background. In our message, Bruce said they bailed on Atropia. And I'm reading the plot synopsis going, oh, okay, see, I loved Don't Look Up, and Bruce didn't like it. I absolutely loved Anniversary. Bruce, I think, still liked it, but not nearly as much as I did. So my thought was that, oh, Bruce hates this, so this is gonna be something that's like right up my alley. Probably be one of my favorite movies of the year. And then
because you like it, you like sorry, Eric, you like satire.
I like satire, and I like satire when it's blunt and you can't look away from it. The subtle satire works too, but I think the blunt satire works best, only because if you're doing a satire, it probably means the society by and large is overlooking something completely obvious. So you got to be even more obvious, because if we were getting it, it wouldn't still be a problem. And so I thought it was going to be like one of those. And I hesitate to even use satire on this, because it's set at, what do they call it, like the box, something like that. But yeah, it's Atropia, like a fake city, or a bunch of actors everywhere, and not military veterans, but newbies would go in there before they get deployed to get a sense of what they're about to get into in real life. And it's got comedic element. Well, it's definitely played as a comedy. There's some funny parts here and there. Most of the time, I don't think the comedy lands hardly at all. It does sometimes, but mostly not. But there's certain jokes where they project the joke so much that the punchline about 3-4 seconds before the punchline comes, and that's usually not a good thing unless the acting in it's fine. Most of the story is all over the place and sort of a mess. The satire portion of it is, I'm not even sure what they're satirizing. They definitely bring up like George W. Bush and that whole thing, but they're not.
Do they mean to be? Then going to your base, is it supposed to be a satire then? Maybe, or just a straight up comedy? Because it's outlandish.
Says it's a satire in the description, so I imagine that's what they're going for. But it's it feels like there's nothing really being said.
41% on Rotten Tomatoes. Sorry
it'd be like it'd be like calling the TV show MASH a satire. It's set. What is it? Set during the Korean War. It's not. I mean, I guess elements of it are satirical just by the nature of what it is, but they're not really leaning into the satire of that. They're leaning into the characters hanging out, being funny and dramatic at times. That's kind of what Atropia is. It's a setting might make it satire by default, but I'm not getting the sense that it's really saying anything about anything of consequence. And if it is, I miss pretty much all of it.
Eric, 97 minutes. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I mean, 97 minutes isn't bad runtime, but yeah, this felt way longer. I was checked out pretty early on this one, and I just spent most of the movie looking at the run. How much time we got left?
Oh my gosh.
Another hour. I've already been watching this 4 hours. How was there an hour left?
Did you say a little bit, thanks a lot, Bruce and Greg, or halfway?
No, I stepped in it myself. Then again, some people have different takes on comedy.
That's Bruce fair, yeah.
There's always comedies that I think are hilarious. One I'll probably talk about later on today that Bruce might watch and go, Eric, we do not share the same sense. I mean, Bruce thinks I'm hilarious, which is perfect, but it's stuff that I find funny, Bruce doesn't.
It's very good.
Which makes sense. I'm a hilarious guy.
Yeah,
so
you are.
I'm the most hilarious. But like the sense of humor is just a little too obvious, and they show their hand way too often. And so there's no real surprise or discovery there. It's just, and that's the comedy. So as far as the plot or the story itself, that's not obvious. And I would never say that I knew what was coming, but that's less of the movie being mysterious and not showing their hand, more so that it's all over the place and not really focus on what it's trying to do. I basically just came out of this movie both puzzled and glad it was over.
Ooh, puzzled and glad it was over. Sometimes when a movie, there's nothing to argue about, Eric, but when a movie is chaotic and all over the place, sometimes that movie can work, right? It's just given the right tone,
I mean,
good execution and writing.
Mother is chaotic as hell. I didn't understand half of it, but I was like, what the hell am I watching?
Right.
I was locked in. This one, I'm just kind of, what's going on? And I'm not locked in. I'm just
Eric, unfocused?
Definitely unfocused. The comedy mostly doesn't land. There's some funny stuff here and there. Channing Tatum shows up for about 5 seconds, so that was cool. The lead,
Ally Shawkat, yeah.
Yeah, Shawkat.
Shawkat, yeah.
She's good. I would like to see her in something better. And actually, maybe I have, because she looks really
Arrested Development. I don't know if you ever saw that, and she was in
never saw Arrested Development,
but she's been in a bunch of movies, and she was also in I think a TV series called Treasure Hunt or something like that.
Right,
and that
was in Severance. Didn't see that. I don't watch TV.
And
Rugrats, that's cool. But anyway, it's just one of those things where, like, with her and like some other people in the movie, dude, you're good, but this is not that. I want to redo from you. I like you. I don't like you in this, and I want to see something else you're in. Oh, I guess she was in First Cow. I should probably watch that. I heard that was good.
Okay, again, directed by Haley Benton Gates. The movie currently on Rotten Tomatoes has a 41% rating.
Oh, and to her credit, there's some stuff that works in this. There was like a kind of prologue, cold open, I guess. It's basically this Iraqi war movie, and then it looks real cool. The action's real good. I mean, that part's obvious, but I think they're tipping their cap that this isn't what the movie is, because as it turns out, that's the movie that someone was making in that area. So if the movie comes, someone like flubs their line, cut, and then they back off, and then, we're on a film set. But that little bit at the beginning was really good, even though it was a little bit tongue in cheek. Yeah, I think the director would make a really badass action movie. This was not an action movie, nor was it trying to be. But I'm just saying, like, that little bit was like, do more of that. Whatever that was, more of that, but less of anything else.
Eric, Atropia, what is your rating on Atropia?
I'll give it 1.5. Half star, it was in focus. Half star, the comedy that did work, and another half star for that opening action scene.
Okay. That is Atropia. Thank you, Eric Holmes, for taking the bullet and watching this movie again. Yeah, it opens in theaters Friday, January 23rd, 2026. Again, Atropia, if some of you watch it and actually have a different opinion, we'd love to hear it. We would love to hear your thoughts, of course.
Of course, because, I mean, our words are not the last and final word on anything.
It's just one out of millions.
It's usually like somewhere in the middle word that eventually gets forgotten.
There you go, Eric Holmes. That is his review of Atropia. Now, for our main featured this week, our main featured review is In Cold Light. It's a movie that Eric and I both saw. Actually, Bruce Purkey also saw it. He will have his review. Yes, Eric is fanning himself. That's a good, I guess, omen of really evil. Yes, there are evil things to come, but cool.
Too.
Yeah,
no. Not at all.
Bruce Purkey has his review of In Cold Light in a few moments as well. But here's the plot summary. There's this woman named Ava, played by Maika Monroe. You might know Maika Monroe from her work in It Follows, a whole bunch of other movies as well. She's just a very great lead actress. Ava, she's freshly released from prison after a 2-year stint. Thing is, she, instead of trying to actually go back to this, to hopefully a straight life, she wants to get her, I guess, hands back in the game of the drug business. And then the problem is, when she tries to get herself back into that business of drugs, she realizes her brother, along with a mutual friend, they've taken over her drug operation, and she just got out of jail, and her brother wants her to lay low. But Ava is, you can tell from the first, Eric, you wanted to differ on that?
There was a bit where a thing happens, but she's definitely adamant, I don't want to go back. Oh crap, what did,
What, but she does actually, well, remember
What's in the car? Oh, there's this and that and that in the trunk. Oh man, I can't.
Oh,
go back.
right.
Go back,
Exactly. Well, she doesn't want to go back to jail, but she wants to get back into the criminal world. That's why she is ultimately really focused. I mean, there is that moment where she's talking to her brother, and there's someone actually above her brother, the new leader of the operation. She tells him, "I'm the one who set up this operation. I want my stake back," and they're not giving it to her, and she's very frustrated. The thing is, logic says she just got out of prison, and she has a job working at her father's rodeo. The father doesn't own the rodeo. He's an employee of this rodeo circuit.
Ooh,
and
played by
Troy Kutzer from Coda, and he's her dad.
That guy is so good. He's great in Coda, and he's great in this.
He's great
to be in everything.
He's so good. Eric said he's not just good, he's great in this movie. There's a very tense moment between Ava and her father, again, played by Troy Kutzer. There's a really great back and forth sequence with them somewhere within the narrative. It's just worth watching just for that confrontation. But Ava has problems with her father because of certain things in the past. Her father has problems with her because of, yes, certain things in the past. The thing is, Ava, if she wants to get out of stay out of jail, she should just continue working as sort of a janitor within the rodeo circuit. But no, she really wants to go back into the operation. Eric said she doesn't want to go back to jail, but she wants to have her cake and eat it too. She wants a life of crime again, where she makes money and she's running the show, but then she doesn't want to go back to jail. So right from the get-go, you're thinking, is this a very likable character? Well, possibly not, but I was locked in. I really love this movie. I forgot to write down the running time. If I recall, I think the running time is about 95 minutes. Helen Hunt, yes.
She really, as far as a likable character, did she really do anything wrong? I can't. Obviously, selling drugs is illegal, but that's not.
Right. I mean,
it's not like she's a rapist or a murderer or anything.
Oh, I mean, there's a couple of criminal actions she does to get away from certain situations. I mean, she steals certain things.
I'm just saying, I didn't really pick up her character as someone that was painted to be unlikable. She was just in a different sort of lifestyle than many of us are used to.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. Well, okay, that different horses for courses, Eric. But if she wants to continue selling drugs and be the kingpin of her own little community, and along the way, I guess there are criminal actions she does along the way to survive. But I guess I could say that. But Eric didn't see her as unlikable. I did see her. She's very intense and she's smart. And a lot of the movie is her trying to use her wits because there is an inciting incident that occurs towards the end of the first act of In Cold Light, where you're thinking this person on the just released from prison, trying to go on the straight and narrow. You think it's going to be one of those stories, and she's pulled back into the life of crime. It's a little bit like one of those stories, but absolutely not, because the rest of In Cold Light, once an inciting incident occurs, it feels like a very tense thriller. You just follow her towards the end and try to figure out whether she's going to survive or not. Will her gambit pay off? Will she use her brains? Can her brains take her to actual survival? And I think that element is one of the things that makes, along with the great performances of everyone involved, of Mike Monroe and Troy Kutzer, it makes In Cold Light very, very tense and excellent. And it reminds me of the Safdie brothers with Uncut Gems, because it gets you on that real stressful pace up throughout the rest of the movie.
A little bit. Main difference is the Uncut Gems and even Marty Supreme is them getting in trouble. Like, a lot of the stress comes from problems they created themselves.
Right.
Her problem isn't necessarily something she created for herself. It's someone else thrust upon her. And by the way, we're not going to say what that inciting incident is.
We will not.
Came out of nowhere. Holy crap.
Yeah, amazing.
I was like,
amazing.
Wait, what?
Exactly. Exactly. And
did that just happen? Oh my God.
And I think the writing, I want to say something. It's directed by Maxime, and it's written by Patrick Whistler. The direction is very assured. It keeps you locked in, but the screenplay itself, the way things work out towards the end, Eric and I will do a very quick spoiler after this.
Quick spoiler, we're going to have to do pretty big spoiler.
All right.
But
Well, then Eric differs with that, and we're gonna defer to Eric Holmes with that.
this
That's
has
pretty cool.
this has like a really kind of strong catch the fair one reference type to it.
That's right.
It's that kind of grittiness. I don't want to just say reverence because reverence is like a rural area, but catch the fair one's kind of more city-esque, which is
true.
Where this is. But it's got that kind of flavor to it.
And all of these movies that you mentioned, they're genre thrillers, but they also traffic in reality. There are real moments in both of these movies, and I feel even though there are parts of In Cold Light that are definitely a little bit, you could stretch it a little bit, I think it's grounded in reality. So Eric,
especially like the scenes between her and her dad.
Yeah,
and I mean, we already mentioned how great Troy Kotsur is, and if you've seen Coda, you know this already. And apparently he's in Primate. I haven't seen Primate. Heard Primate wasn't great, but I heard he's in it. He's great in it, so I want to watch that. But the back and forth between him and Ava, and their back and forth is all sign language. So yes. I think that's like Troy Kotsur's special sauce, because he doesn't typically talk in movie. He'll say sort of words sometimes, but he's mostly doing sign language. So anything you're getting out of him, other than what's subtitled, or if ASL, then read what he's saying with his hands. But a lot of his character just comes out through his emoting, and he's damn good at it. And then his body, the back and forth between him and her, like you're just watching them sign back and forth, reading the subtitles and like looking at their reactions. And the one part they're going back and forth, and there's that motion light just keeps going off.
Right. Like, beautiful touch. Beautiful touch. Yeah.
God, there's so much good in this movie.
There is a lot of good in this movie, and it's very subtly detailed. It's a detail-oriented film, while also having some really great genre tropes in it. But the genre tropes are, I think, balanced well with a lot of the reality and the realistic expectations in Cold Light. I think right now
they do a good job kind of playing with the genre trope. Okay, I know where this is going. Wait, what? I mean, the inciting incident's the biggest example of that, but they always put you in a place of relative safety as an audience member, and then just kind of use that to play with your expectations, and not like subverting your expectations for the sake of doing it, but like they know what you're expecting, and they're gonna use that to kind of play with you, or play with the audience a little bit.
Eric, you and I still haven't seen a movie that you and I probably would love. God is a Bullet. That's a movie that she was in several years ago, and I think that's a movie that for our personal homework that we need to see. And I think you and I would love God is a Bullet.
Is that Micah Monroe?
Yeah, that's Micah Monroe's in God is a Bullet as well.
I'm down to rewind that next week.
Wait. Wait. You've never seen the God is a Bullet?
No, I haven't.
No, I hear that's just a fantastic. I think Cassavetes.
Oh yeah, she was in Long Legs.
Yeah, Long Legs.
Honey Boy.
She's
in stuff.
She's in a lot of great stuff. But yes, in Cold Light
and this is what. Well, she was also in Independence Day Resurgence, so they're not all winners, but this one is.
Yes, in Cold Light is, like Eric says, it's a winner. I will give a warning. If you want your hand to be held, a nice pat on the back for a really cool, fun genre film that has a really interesting, fun ending, you're not going to get at that with In Cold Light without giving too much away. If you want something a little bit more bracing and real, and just, I will say this, Rotten Tomatoes, 57% rating. So this is a movie that will divide people. I know. It will divide people.
What's the division?
Yeah, there's good. Yeah, let's not.
I can understand like thrillers not being your genre, but who watches this going, nope, bad movie?
Right. I was reading a bunch of reviews online, just print reviews, and a lot of them were just negative. They're saying that it was an undercooked movie.
People can be wrong. It's fine.
Okay, my rating 4.5 stars for In Cold Light. First-rate thriller with some really great humanistic touches. Great performances. I really love this movie. Eric Holmes,
I'm right there with you. 4.5. I would go 5, but I feel like that this is like a 4.5 with room to grow. I feel if I watch this movie like 3, 4, 5 more times, like I'll start getting more out of it. Yeah, that Rotten Tomato scores just doesn't make sense to me, but who knows? Hey, watching Cold Light, maybe you'll hate it like some of the critics on there do.
I will spoil something. There is a great line in this movie, and I'm going to paraphrase it. Someone, and Eric, I think you're going to love this line. And again, it's half a spoiler. Someone asks someone, where is this person? And that other person answers, somewhere off bleeding. When that person said that, I was like, yeah, that's so. I'm not going to say what the exact line is, but it's just some really interesting film noirish lines and very well done stuff. Also, Helen Hunt as a crime boss. She has a very small role in this.
Yeah, I didn't know if we're going to bring that here.
Yeah, no.
But I guess she's on the IMDb.
Yeah, and
where the hell's she been? She was freaking great in this too.
She's good. We need another movie with Helen Hunt in Cold Light. Eric mentioned the MCU. Let's have an In Cold Light universe, and let's just have a movie with Helen Hunt as a lead, as a crime boss.
I want to see Helen Hunt as that character again, because she's like, when she pops up, she's kind of like kind of non-threatening,
right?
Just her whole demeanor, and then when they start talking, it's he's not effing around. Exactly. And then so it just makes that character even more insidious.
Very cool character.
Who the hell hates this movie? I don't get it.
And there's some really good action scenes in this movie.
I haven't listened to Bruce's review yet, but
okay, I'm not going to tell you.
Your people food's on the line on this one.
Well, you're going to hear Bruce Purkey's review of In Cold Light in a few moments. Again, both Eric and I love this movie. 4.5 stars from both of us. In theaters, wide release Friday, January 23rd, 2026. That is it for the features. But before we get out of here, we have a little bit of a promo from Eric Holmes regarding late filmmaker Michael Apted. Can you tell our listeners what to expect if they're within the vicinity next week, possibly?
Yeah, so this is Where Is the Thing? The Long Way Home remastered and expanded will premiere next week, January 28th, to save and project the 22nd Museum of Modern Art's International Festival of Film Preservation, which is fitting for this. This movie was made, I believe it was made as a TV movie, or at least released as a TV movie. It was made released in 1989 by Michael Apted. It follows, I'm going to mess up this name, Boris Grabenchik.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, that sounds close.
And it's basically him making music and trying to come to America. Quite honestly, I didn't really care for his music too much.
Fair.
As the movie goes along, because but some of what he says is someone's like complaining about his music. He's like, I need to be allowed to mess up. I'm looking for perfection. I can't get perfection until I make mistakes. I was like, well, hell, that's a great way of looking at things. And sure enough, as the movie progresses, his music gets better throughout the movie. The remastered and expanded, Michael Apted passed away, I believe, in 2021.
Okay.
I think. Let me double check. Yeah, January 7th, 2021. And it was, I believe, the editor and producer that kind of remastered and restored this movie and is trying to bring it back. Because I think it came out, played as a TV movie. I think they released it on VHS back in the day, and it's just been lost or forgotten. But what they did is they also added an extra 15 minutes or so at the end of the documentary. First of all, it's a Michael Apted documentary. People like him a lot, and with good reason. He's a good documentarian. This is not just, what do you call it? The concert.
Concert, yeah.
And it's not this person that no one's heard of they're a huge inspiration to me. Oh yeah, all their music. Like it's just following their story. And there's an actual story there. And then you add that 15 minutes at the end as epilogue, and it brings up even more story. Honestly, take The Long Way Home and the epilogue portion of it. You could make like a feature length, like an actual feature like movie, like a narrative feature movie out of this, and it would be a good one. I recently saw the Bruce Springsteen one, and that was, look, I love Scott Cooper, but I did not like that movie. It was just like, oh no, I want to do this music and it's going to be a little different than before. Okay, Bruce, do it. You don't understand. This is what I need to do. I'm not fighting you. You do what you need to do. It's not going to be the same as it was. It's going to be something different. Bruce, whatever you want, we're here for you. We're not pushing back on anything. That's the thing about you. You don't understand what it is I want to do. It was that movie was just so asinine. Something like this, like, because there's someone just trying to do a thing, they're sort of failing, they're getting pushed back, and the pushback is earned, but then they grow and do their thing, and then all the stuff that's recently happening is equally as interesting. Yeah, this is a music documentary that actually has some substance to it, which is not always the case.
I think Michael Apted directed one of my all-time favorite music documentaries. I think I should look it up on IMDb. He did this documentary, Bring on the Night. It's the documentary with Sting and his band when he decided to go from Police, go solo, and bring out his band was primarily jazz. I'm pretty sure Michael Apted directed that. It's called Bring on the Night. And that was a very seminal film for me as a 14-year-old. And Eric was mentioning about Michael Apted as a filmmaker and a documentarian. I was very influenced by the late Apted as a filmmaker because he also is the creator behind the Up series. And Eric, I don't think you've seen the Up series yet, as of yet, but it centers on he followed this group of school children from the time they were 7 up until, I don't know, maybe through their 60s, I suppose. Every 7 years, he would document their progression. And it's called the Up series. If you've never seen it, the whole thesis behind the Up series is give me the boy or girl at 7 years old, and I will show you that adult. And it's so interesting. And I don't know if they have a box set. If I ever had any money or any more than a couple of nickels to my name, I would buy the entire Up series or actually download them on digital. They're just a seminal piece of work. And the tragedy behind this is Apted passed away in 2021, like you said, Eric. And because of that, I'm assuming the Up series was never continued. But they have
probably not
hours and hours of footage with probably 60 plus years of this. Basically, it's a 60-year documentary, Eric. That's a huge feat, right? That's a little bit. Yeah, Eric, go ahead.
I mean, not nearly as good. Not nearly as long as Boyhood, but it's all right.
Right. No, it's along the same lines of as far as that ambition, Eric. Yeah, very good, Eric.
But it says right here, the film is the remastered version based on the only existing 16 millimeter print supervised by producer Stephen Lawrence and editor Suzanne Rostock. I believe that Stephen Lawrence and Suzanne Rostock are the ones that were responsible for the final 15 minutes. That
very cool?
Could be wrong, but I think that was done well after he passed away because it's following Boris currently. Oh yeah, it had to have been because he talks about the Ukraine invasion. Yeah. And so, and that part's just as good as the rest of it, and it enhances it. Be very curious to see what Stephen Lawrence and Suzanne Rostock. I don't know. Stephen Lawrence is a producer. Suzanne is an editor. Maybe that's not one of their ambitions, but if they were responsible for that last 15 minutes, yeah, do more of that, please. You guys are good at this.
All right. Are you going to give it? So what is your rating on The Long Way Home remastered and expanded? Again, it's going to be at the To Save and Project the 22nd MoMA International Festival of Film Preservation over at, I believe, the MoMA, right? Wednesday, January 28th. What is your rating on The Long Way Home remastered and expanded?
I'm gonna do 4 stars on this. Again, with music docs, it usually just comes down to, do you like the band or not? Do you like the music or not? This one, maybe you love the music, maybe you hate it. Doesn't really matter. There's an actual story here.
Okay, cool. Speaking of stories, we're going to get to one last thing from Eric Holmes. We have Paradise Records. Just a quick recommend on this Logic film. You've seen it a couple of times. What do you love about it?
This movie's awesome.
That's it, folks. We're done.
Yep, 6.9. Moving on. No, so Paradise Records. I was over at my friend Zoe and Alicia's house, and we're just gonna put something on. Let's just put this on and have it as background. And almost immediately, like within the first minute, maybe we're just like, "Wait, what did he just say?" All right, well, yeah, that's great. Wait, oh, they said that? What the hell is this? So we just ended up watching the whole thing. And then Zoe go back a couple days later, and Zoe's there, and we're like, me and Alicia were talking about Paradise Records. And Zoe, you got to watch this movie. This is, if I didn't know better, I'd say you wrote this movie. And we're watching it again. It was like, holy crap, this movie's so funny. Now, they dropped the N-bomb quite a few times. If that's not your cup of tea, just a warning there. But this movie has really, and also if this isn't your cup of tea, keep this in mind too. This has heavy Clerks vibes. And like, I mean, Jay and Silent Bob show up in this movie. The actual characters, Jay and Silent Bob. So I guess technically that makes it part of the View Askew universe. But it's got that, like, I know some people like Clerks. They don't like Kevin Smith's movies recently. Red State and Tusk are awesome. If you don't agree, but this this has that kind of snappiness and charm that the original Clerks has, and maybe a little bit of Mallrats. So, well, for sure Mallrats. But yeah, this is also one of those movies that I love pretty much. Like as soon as we put it on, like it was just supposed to be something we're gonna watch in the background. It turned out that nope, that this is what we're doing now. We're watching Paradise Records, and I think this is also one of those movies that you're gonna know right away whether it's your cup of tea or not. Mm-hmm. If you're like 10 minutes in and you're like, nope, just bail. This is not a movie for you. But if you're 10 minutes in going, oh, this is pretty funny. I dig these characters. It's definitely offensive in certain areas, but offensive and funny. Not, look, we're going to say a bunch of offensive stuff just because screw you and whatever. It's just funny. I don't know if you're familiar with Oliver Tree, the musician. Anyway, he shows up in this. I can't even describe it. His character gets so flustered. It does like this high-pitched scream just out of nowhere. That's hilarious. And I don't know why. It's hard to explain. Logic plays Cooper, but he also plays his uncle Tony later on in the movie. It's like, how you doing? Hey, pretty good. Just done a bump in the parking lot, like that kind of thing. Yeah, this is good stuff. Might not be everyone's cup of tea, but yeah. Hilarious 6.9. This would have been my favorite comedy of 2025 had I seen it.
Oh wow.
The awards.
Oh wow.
Easily would have been my and don't get me wrong, Killing Mary Sue it's worthy of its spot currently. Paradise Records wouldn't nudge it out.
No, that's amazing. All right, that's Paradise Records from filmmaker and star Logic. Great hip-hop artist as well. 6.9 stars from Eric Holmes. All right, so we are done.
The only thing Paradise Records was missing was Jake Busey from Killing Mary Sue. Should have been in Paradise Records. It would have been a perfect comedy.
Very, very good. So that is Eric Holmes' review of Paradise Records. Go check it out. I believe it's on digital. That's how Eric saw it. Or maybe you didn't say, wait, was it on digital?
It wasn't at my house. It was on one of their streaming services.
Okay.
Probably like Amazon or something like that.
Okay. Very, very cool. That is Paradise Records. That is it for this section of CinemAddicts. Bruce Purkey's up in the attic right now. Eric Holmes, you want to say anything to our listeners before we get out of here?
Yeah, watch Atropia. And if you disagree with my assessment, let me know in the comments below. And watch In Cold Blood. If you disagree with our thoughts on it.
In Cold Light.
In Cold Blood is something completely different.
That's worth a watch too. Yeah, In Cold Blood.
Yeah, but watch In Cold Light. And if you disagree with what we think on it, just move along. I don't.
You know why Eric doesn't want to hear about it. Okay, tell us what you think of these movies.
I'm joking. If you don't like it, also comment on that. But I just don't get you. But if you watch Atropia and you like it, because that's the thing. I hate crapping on movies, especially like movies that are like, if it's like, let's say Avengers Doomsday comes out and it sucks. Like, I'm not going to feel too bad about crapping on it because it's got everything going for it. And if they can't pull it together, that's on them. With smaller movies, usually feel pretty bad. And I also want to give them their fair shake. Maybe someone watches Atropia and it's like, hey, this movie's rad. What the hell's wrong with you? Sound off. Let me know. Tell me where I'm wrong. And I will listen.
Oh, very, very good. So yeah, tell us what you think of the movies that we covered this week. Here is Bruce Purkey over at The Cinematic.
Hey everybody, welcome to another Cinematic. That is the attic of cinema, where I actually creep down from the attic once a week from where Mr. Eric is keeping me, and I report to you the movies, either few or many, that I watched that week. This week I have 2 screeners and 1 movie from 2025 I caught up on. Is it a hidden gem? It's definitely one that virtually no one has talked about. I never even heard of it. So sometimes it's fun to watch those types of movies as well. What do I have this week? Well, I have a screener called Dooba Dooba, What the heck is Dooba Dooba, Bruce? I've got also a movie called In Cold Light. And then I have that movie from 2025 called American Sweatshop. So let's get to it. First up, we're going to do Dooba Dooba. Dooba Dooba is directed by Erland Hollingsworth, starring several people, but mostly it's a two-hander. Monroe, played by Betsy Sly, and Amna, played by Amna Vega. And this is what you call lo-fi horror, or what else they call it? They call it analog horror. If you're like, what is that, Bruce? What is analog horror? What is lo-fi analog horror? If you are into any of these things where they're doing, especially online where you have these like YouTube, supposedly they found some real tape. It's almost like a version of found footage where online you go on and there's like supposedly footage of this old kids show, but it's really creepy. And then if you go there, you click on a link below it and it takes you to some other hidden footage, and that takes you to some other thing. It becomes a game, but it's also like a horror series of sorts. And that's where analog horror got going, sort of a offshoot of creepypasta and those kinds of things. The most notable analog horror sort of movie that came out was Skinamarink a few years ago, which kind of made a big splash, got a lot of buzz, got tons of hate, which I enjoyed that movie for what it was, but I absolutely get the hate because it's one of those movies where kind of nothing happens, and you either like the tone and the mood and the weirdness of it, despite the lack of any sort of plot whatsoever. If you like that kind of thing, then maybe other analog horror is your deal. Now, Dooba Dooba is definitely following along on the heels of Skinamarink and going, oh, we can do analog horror and make it even cooler, give it a little more plot and make it a little more interesting. Strangely, I found this, to me, less good, less enjoyable than Skinamarink, although I have a hunch that if people were forced to watch both, they would be much more entertained by Dooba Dooba. It just depends, I guess, on what you like and what you're looking for in a horror movie. Basic setup is pretty simple. In fact, in some ways, it's a very classic horror setup. You've got Amna, who's a young woman who is coming to babysit another young person named Monroe, and Monroe is probably about 12 or 13 themselves. Why would such an old child get babysat? Well, early on when Amna's there to meet the parents as the parents are leaving and get the lay of the land and all that, Amna is told that Monroe was highly traumatized in their young lives by their brother being murdered in the same house as when they were there, and that they witnessed it. In fact, I think that the tale was that Monroe's brother was murdered in the same room as Monroe. So Monroe is highly traumatized to the point that they have put these little security cameras all around the house. So immediately it answers the question of, why are we watching this movie from all these security cameras in this house? Like, why would anyone have a security camera over next to the stove and then in the corner of the hallway? It's improbable, to the degree of security cameras that would be the kind of thing you'd have in like a ghost hunting show, where they set it up to capture every corner of a house. You would never do that accidentally in a found footage movie. So you couldn't really justify it in a found footage movie. But this movie, they justified out the gate by saying all these cameras are to help Monroe feel safe and to help us feel secure that no one's coming in, since that event happened in Monroe's childhood, although Monroe's still a child, of course. And Amna is a little bit taken aback, but also game. And then the other thing they mention is, whenever you're walking around the house or doing anything, if you're not with Monroe, say Monroe is upstairs and you're downstairs and you need to come upstairs, you have to say Dooba Dooba, Dooba Dooba, Dooba Dooba the whole time as a code warning that, hey, I'm someone safe that you're hearing. It's not a stranger. That's the idea behind Dooba Dooba. So, okay, high concept setup, very low budget, very indie. The acting is going to be a bit, as they would say in fish jelly reviews, crunchy. So you got to be ahead of that already. I have no problem with kind of a low budget, not the most high-end acting, as long as it has a really cool concept and does something interesting. The problem with this for me is, after that setup, which I was down for the setup. In fact, even the parents are a little bit weird. But then they just leave almost right away. They're off to their overnight. Well, they're taking an overnight party is what they're doing. And it's a little bit vague, what kind of an overnight party? Well, okay, whatever. Are they swingers? What are they? I don't know. They leave. You're just stuck with little kid Monroe, and not that little, and younger woman Amna. And the problem I had with this movie overall is that there's so many parts of it that are so tropey. And with a movie like this, if it's going to be so like verging on experimental, really low budget, using this kind of heightened, high concept idea, just go all out. Be weird. Be absolutely bizarro. This is the kind of thing that would work as, I don't know, it kind of worked really well in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one. Sure, it wasn't shot like this or anything, but the idea of this kind of super low budget, we're going to just shoot this thing on a shoestring and make a really intense, unique experience for people. This movie could have been akin to that. But instead, there's things right out of the gate that made me concerned. One, the poster is like an upside down, red colored house, just like a normal like country house, which is where they live, upside down. And right now, indie horror and all horror just loves the upside down shot. Ooh, things have gone topsy-turvy. The whole world is on its head. It must be evil. So quit it already with the upside down shots. We're done. Once again, I said it before, Ari Aster did it twice. He did it in Hereditary and he did it in Midsommar. And now we can just go ahead and retire that. 2, early on when Monroe and Amna are hanging out, there's a scene where somebody's cutting vegetables or cutting food. Guess what? When someone cuts something in a horror movie, they're always going to cut themselves. It just never fails. And yep, it happened here. And that was 2 strikes on this movie. It's like, no. Anyway, overall, the biggest problem is this. It doesn't really go anywhere. It's the two hanging out. And you know that Monroe is supposed to be disturbed and troubled. But it's in such a surface way, and it's so obvious that Monroe is gonna be the problem, and it's just tropey, creepy kid territory. I think there's supposed to be a twist towards the end of this movie too, which is not a twist at all, other than there's something that happens with Amna that you didn't quite see coming. As far as Amna's, I'm not going to really describe what it is exactly, except say the person that Amna is altered in some way. That was somewhat interesting, but even that didn't go much of anywhere. And I would say when it's supposed to get to the real horror, which is the final third of this movie, the things that happen are all things that you would expect in this movie. The people that end up being bad are bad in ways that we saw telegraphed for a long, long time. The twist or reveal that happens in the final third is something that's not very interesting. And unfortunately, the low budgetness of this and the not best acting of everything, instead of heightening the kind of the realism of the situation like it would in like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, instead of making everything feel gritty and really, you're really there, it actually pulled me out of it. It made me feel like this doesn't feel real at all. It just felt kind of cheap, and unfortunately, I just wasn't down for this movie at all. I'm curious to see what the kind of consensus is going to be. I'm sure there's going to be some people that really jump on this as like a great new low budget discovery. But for me, as a real horror fan, like when I was saying, I'm not more than you, I should say. I'm a fan of a lot of horror. This just doesn't cut it. It was interesting idea, but not a very well followed through on idea. So I will give Dooba Dooba 2 stars. Dooba Dooba stars. And you're going to be really annoyed by the end of this by how many Dooba Doobas they say. And that's the thing. Okay, I'll stop in a second on this, but the Dooba Dooba thing goes nowhere. You think, well, that's going to be a big plot point. The use or not use of saying Dooba Dooba is going to be a huge thing. It really isn't. It's just a reason to have something that kind of sounds spooky, and it's going to hopefully they want it to become like a meme or like viral. They want people to be like Dooba Dooba as to be spooky. And it's just, you can see everything feels just very tropey and calculated. So no, Dooba Dooba, 2 stars. Okay. Next up, real quick, I'm going to talk about, this is a movie from 2025 that I caught up on, and it's on Hulu now. And every so often I'll be like, I don't have anything I really am in the mood to watch. It's not, I want to not watch the screener for one day. I want to watch just something else. maybe it's right now there's a whole bunch of Oscar-worthy kind of movies, Oscar-nominated kind of movies that are either very limited release, so I can't see them, or they're not available on streaming yet, so I can't stream them. So you're just in this middle land where you're just looking for anything just different. So I'm just scooting around, browsing through Hulu, and I go to Hulu usually because, if you didn't know this, of all the major streamers, Hulu tends to get the types of movies that we have discussed most commonly. They'll get the weirdo, independent movies, the hidden gems, the movies that you just wouldn't expect to find, or you won't find if you don't look. A lot of times those will end up on Hulu, and a ton of the ones we've talked about ended up there. Perfect example is Toxic Avengers there, the remake. The Ugly Stepsister has now fallen on there. Sister Midnight is on there. So there's a bunch of things on there. If you go look, that you'll be like, whoa, I remember them talking about that 4 or 5 months ago. So I went over there, just went to the movies, just added, just started scrolling through, and I came across a movie called American Sweatshop. Now, this is directed by Srisavasdi. I think it's probably a German director, maybe. It's supposed to take place in America, though, Florida somewhere. The main character in this is played by Lily Reinhardt, which you may have seen. That's a name you probably have come across. She plays Daisy. And this is a high-concept movie that kind of lives in a similar world as Red Rooms. Now, is it as scary and as effective and creepy and well-realized as Red Rooms? Absolutely not. But there's something interesting going on here. Now, I'm going to give a big caveat on this movie. There is a level of disbelief that you have to suspend on this movie to enjoy it, because I think that there is a core problem in this movie, is that there's a level of unbelievability to it that I think is core, and I just chose to go with the concept and believe that it's the way things are. And here is the concept. Basically, sweatshop, you hear that, what kind of a sweatshop is she working in? Well, the idea, I think, is supposed to be that she is in this place that essentially approves or basically blocks flagged video content online. Now, they never say where it's being blocked. Is it on Google or where is it? You get the idea that it's supposed to be an analog for YouTube. And the idea is they have this room full of people, mostly just young people, like early 20s. You get the idea it's supposed to be like a first job. They're all just piled in there, each of them on a computer screen. And essentially, they're just fed a steady stream of flagged videos. And they have to click on so many videos a day. They have a quota, and they have to view so many seconds of the video. I forget what it was, 15, 20, 30 seconds of the video. They can't just click on it, see it's terrible, and get off of it immediately. First of all, I don't believe this is how flagged stuff is blocked. I mean, maybe I'm naive, but it feels like the kind of thing that AI is doing. They try to explain it away in this movie by saying they tried using some kind of computerized way to like just sort through these videos and flag and delete the ones that are really against the policies, but it didn't work. They have to still use humans for this particular thing, because it's like the idea of porn when you see it, but you can't describe it, that kind of a thing. Here, they're trying to make sure they're blocking things that are too violent, horribly violent material, horribly sexual material, abusive material, anything that just you'd not want to go into a streaming video service of any sort that's supposed to be available to the full public. So that's the job. And the idea is that, of course, this experience is going to alter and really disturb and maybe scar the people that are doing it. And we're following Lily Reinhardt's character, Daisy, as she goes through this. On the plus side, so all of that, like I said, is unbelievable. To me, it's like the 2020s equivalent of the 80s when they did punk rockers or something. They knew they were interesting, but they really didn't live in that world. So the depiction of punk rockers was very cartoonish. In the 90s, the same thing happened with like hackers and stuff. As not a person who's in the world of flagging extreme online content, I do not know what that world looks like, but I'm guessing this is a pretty unrealistic version of that. But if you take the concept at its face value and just go with it, I think it's a pretty interesting character study of Daisy herself. Just because this does not dwell on the videos. In fact, you don't ever see the full videos. You might see a little glimpse or a corner of a video. You might hear some sounds, very similar to Red Rooms. You didn't really see the stuff. You're really just seeing the effect of the people in that room, and especially Daisy. And there's a couple other characters you see there too, and the way they interact on their breaks and stuff, and how they have a room where they can go when they've been too shocked or traumatized by a particular video. And as this goes on, you see how her life is being, and her humanity is being battered and rounded. Her edges are being shaved off. She's losing something of her humanity as time goes on. And it's a basic message, but it's still done in an interesting way because it does focus just on her as a character. And I think that, and she's doing a great job as portraying a very humane, like real, well-rounded character. I think that kind of is the good part of this movie. I'm not going to get into like the full plot as much, because the basic plot is that she sees a particular video, and this particular video kind of haunts her. And I guess each of them has one of those videos. And the way she goes about trying to, I guess, deal with that video and deal with the reality of the world where that video is made and consumed is the main thrust of this movie. What does she do with that once it's in her brain? And how does she cope with it, or how does she process it? And what does it do to her as a human? And what is it doing to everyone as a human to have these things in our brains? I think as a basic movie, it's interesting, maybe a little outlandish, definitely won't work for everybody, but I think it's on the verge of being a hidden gem. I don't think it's quite there, but I think it's definitely worth a watch. And if you're looking for something different that you've not heard about at all, I would say give this a try and see if you're pulled in by it. I gave it like 25 minutes, and I was suitably interested to follow through. And I think it was generally pretty successful at doing that. Now, is obviously, by the way I'm talking about it, it's not a 5-star movie. I probably wouldn't even say it's a 4-star. I'm going to go 3.5, because I feel like it's one of those movies on the verge of being really cool and really, really interesting. It didn't quite have that juice, but it was still pretty darn creative, I thought, and way better than it had to be. This could have easily been a very pulpy, exploitive, cheesy, like just shocker horror. And I think it went much more of an interesting route by really trying to give us some real character moments. So I'm going to go 3.5 stars for American Sweatshop, currently on Hulu. And I didn't look up, it might be showing other places too, but that's where I saw it, was Hulu. Okay. The last one I saw this week was on one of our screeners, and that was In Cold Light, directed by Maxime Guiraud. I think this is the first English language speaking movie of this director. I believe this is a Canadian production, or a French-Canadian production. Once again, I may be wrong. I'm terrible about doing the full research. That's where Greg is great. So he usually corrects me if I do something too egregious as far as my facts go. Who are your main actors here? Well, there's two that should really strike out to you, but I'll give you the basic ones. As Ava, our main star, we got Maika Monroe. Of course, Maika Monroe from It Follows, from a ton of movies. Was it The Watcher that we watched that was pretty good? Which I think I need to go back to. That movie ended up sticking around and being much better in hindsight than I think we expected. Also, of course, Longlegs, famously in that movie as well. Maika Monroe is the main character here. You've got Bob, played by Alan Hocko. You've got Will, played by Troy Kotsur. And if you remember Troy Kotsur from Coda, he was the dad in Coda, and he's the dad here. He is like a great dad character, and always interesting and unique, and he is the same here. And then as Claire, you've got a kind of an extended, it's more than a cameo, but it's not a huge role, but it's a pivotal role. Claire is played by Helen Hunt. Well, it's always great to see Helen Hunt come back in a movie. You don't see her that much anymore. So basic concept of In Cold Light is the very, very beginning of the movie. You see Ava. She is obviously involved in drugs, drug dealing. She's doing some kind of a sketchy deal where she's going to this house, and the house is sketchy and everybody there is shady. And after she gets there, the house gets raided. She tries to run away, scrambling across the field or the big yards behind the house, and she gets tackled and in jail, in prison. And I think we jump ahead 2 years. She's been in prison for 2 years. She gets out, and the movie basically starts with her back into the world. And I thought immediately, okay, this is going to be one of those, like those character drama about somebody trying to get their life back on track after falling into this world of drugs and crime and trying to work their way straight into the world. But no, that's not what this is. Immediately, I want back in. I'm going to get back into the game. Her brother is knee deep in the same drug world that she left. In fact, it seems like they had been in it together. Once again, there's not a lot of exposition. A lot of it is just you're back in the world. You're watching how it works and you're figuring things out. He's trying to keep her out of the world, and she's, nope, I want back in. I want to keep doing this. Let's do this. She's definitely right out the gate like an unsympathetic character. You're like, okay, she's just straight up wants to be in this life of drugs and crime. You're not sure why, but that's her world she wants to be in. And it's a version of Mike and Monroe I haven't really seen performance-wise. Now, I'm not a huge purist on her roles, so she may have done something similar in the past, but this one's pretty effective. I was surprised that she had this gear in her acting. And then her dad, like I said, played by Troy Kotsur, he's an older, former like rodeo dude. He kind of still works at the rodeo grounds, and she'd been involved in that too when she was younger, because you can see she kind of helps with the stables and with the horses and all that kind of stuff. And the cows, not the cows, but the bulls. I guess they ride bulls too. But you can see that she's comfortable in that world, and he seems like he's estranged from each other. Well, there's some kind of drama between them, and they seem to have an uncomfortable distance between themselves, the dad and the daughter. And all of this is shaping up for me to be like this kind of really interesting character study of this. Now, once again, not trying to go straight, but this person just trying to dig themselves further into this destructive lifestyle. And as alone as that, a kind of a dour, gritty, gray, serious version of that kind of world, it's pretty effective and really well shot. But that is not what the movie ends up being. It's that for about 20 minutes. But then an event occurs when she's going out to a particular drug meetup. An event occurs, and from that point forward, it becomes much more of a thriller. It becomes much more of an intense cat and mouse chase. The S's hit the fan, and Micah Monroe's character has to figure out what to do to get out of it or to get the upper hand. I'm not going to say exactly what happens, but I'll say it gets intense pretty quick, and it stays at that pitch pretty much throughout. There's a couple little moments of quietness, but it stays pretty intense and pretty thrillerish for at least the last 2/3 of this movie. So if you were looking at the beginning of this, like I said in the description I gave, and you're like, it just sounds like a really downbeat, drug addicted family drama kind of thing, it doesn't get less downbeat, but it definitely gets way more thrilling. It gets way more intense. And as far as all that goes, there's some pretty good villains here, and it stays in that very gritty, gray, almost neo-noir, but it's a little more, I don't know, brutal than that. I don't know. I really started enjoying this quite a bit. I was surprised by the turn it took, and it worked for me. I could see there are a few things where you have to suspend your disbelief again with this one, in that there's certain moments where things will happen. You'll be like, oh, I don't think she would have got out of that quite that easily. But once again, when you're in thriller action territory, I think this is more thriller than action, or thriller crime drama kind of territory. You're going to have some moments that you have to be like, okay, well, they just did that because they need to get to the next thing. It's not terrible. It's not super, super outlandish, but there are a few moments where you're like, okay, why did that person, without giving you a spoiler, when Micah goes and hides in a certain place in this movie, and some people are trying to find her, she is in a place that is one of 3 or 4 places in that vicinity that would be the most likely places that she might be hiding. And I would think those people would have at least checked those places to see if she was hiding there. And they don't. And I'm like, okay, those are the kind of moments where you're like, well, these guys are really after her. They're going to at least check the places that she might have just run, but they don't. And that's once again just this convenient moment where the movie could have just ended because they would have found her and she would have been dead. I do want to point out once again, I talked about how Troy Kotsur is like really good at like dads. And I mentioned this in our little side chat that we have every week between myself, Greg, and Eric. I think that Troy Kotsur might be the king of dads having emotional conversations with daughters in yards. Because if you remember in Coda, there's a really specific one that's really, really emotional and amazing in Coda. Now this one isn't quite there, but it's really well done. There's this moment where she is on the run, but she has come back for a short period to have a confrontation with her dad, Troy Kotzer, and she's having this conversation in the yard. Of course, he's very effective, and most of it is signed, which of course, once again, is always interesting when you have this kind of dramatic moments through sign and through the emotions and through the emoting of the actors, not the words so much. And while they're doing it, they're in one of those in a yard that has one of those lights, those motion activated lights, and they're so intense they're not moving very much, and the light will keep going off, and then they keep moving or doing something to make the light go back on. And it's a really simple, believable thing in the world they live in. That's a thing you actually see in the world, but it's used obviously for such kind of symbolic and emotional effect that I thought it was really a cool touch to have that happen. Really, really enjoyable movie overall. I thought that scene was one of the standouts. There's a few standouts here. I think Helen Hunt's scene is also pretty great and a little bit unexpected. And I think the finale, I could see some people being disappointed by the final turn this movie makes, but I think the final turn this movie makes is actually it's brave in a narrative sense to go where it goes, because it's not necessarily going to be the crowd-pleasing, obvious sort of ending that you might give as a writer. And to do this is, I think, more truthful to this actual character that we've met. And I think it's pretty effective. I'm torn on what to rate this one. In Cold Light, I would probably go, it's at least 4 stars, and I'm tipping towards 4.5. I know that people aren't going to like this as much, probably because it is so, I could see some people saying this is just so downbeat and so gray and so quote unquote gritty. But to me, that's a selling point for this movie. So I'm going to go 4.5 stars. I really quite liked In Cold Light. I'm really curious, because this is more in the wheelhouse of Eric and Greg, and I could see them either loving it or not hitting for some reason. I can't imagine that they won't at least like this movie. So by now you probably already know, if one of them watched it, what they thought of it. But I think this is the find of the week. I think In Cold Light is cool. And I didn't even talk about the filming. The one thing that I could see Eric being annoyed by, there is quite a bit of kind of shaky cam sort of stuff in this. I do wish it had been shot with more of a steady hand. I know it's a stylistic kind of approach, but I think to some degree it is a little detrimental here, although it didn't bother me much. But there's a few moments where I was like, okay, I would have liked to spend more of a steady shot. So I could see Eric being annoyed by that. But that being said, the overall look, the overall cinematography, the way this is shot, I think is absolutely fitting for the material. And it looks really good for this kind of indie, like you do get this feeling of you're down in there with them. It's not like a lot of like colored lights and stylistic flourishes. It's trying to be very, very, like I said, once again, gritty and realistic. That is the approach. That is the look. And I think overall it achieves it pretty darn well. So that's my one caveat, though, and I could see Eric being a little annoyed by that. Anyway, 4.5 stars for In Cold Light. Probably won't be easy to find in a theater, and I don't even think, honestly, you need to see it in a theater per se. But when this comes to digital, for people who like kind of crime thrillers, crime thriller dramas, this could be one that might slip under the radar. From the poster, it might look like generic, and I think it has something more to offer than a lot of those kind of movies do. It reminds me, not in story, but I just felt about it similar to Emily the Criminal. That one was had much more humor to it, but both had this kind of under the radar, like, whoa, I didn't know that actor had that gear, and that was a character that really was interesting throughout. And I think they both hit a similar tone, I think, or not even tone, just a similar place in my entertainment part of my brain. I think they both hit there. Emily the Criminal and In Cold Light. All right. Talk to y'all next week. I know we're going to have more weird things, I'm sure. Hopefully you're catching some cool movies in kind of the dregs of the new year. And hopefully it's keeping you slightly distracted from the horribleness going on in the real world. And once again, I will leave you with my usual outro. See, Greg wants to edit me. He wants to control me. He wants to cut out what I'm going to say. So there may be nothing here. Maybe you'll just hear the word ice. What do you think I said before ice? What would I say before the word ice? Extra ice? Do I want extra ice in my drink? Do I want to cut ice from my drink? Or do I want to just say, see you later?